honestly don't want to say this, but like I just think that men became lazy.
But why did they become lazy? What has happened on the woman's side that has caused men to be lazy and say, I don't want to do this anymore?
I think somewhere down the line, somebody made that not cool. I think that's what happened.
But
It made it not cool to be chivalrous to your girl, to be a loving person, to like actually care about your girl and actually like your girl. It became cool to kind of just treat her like a whatever, right? That's when all this side.
Wow, we made it to fall. Weather's getting a little more chilly these days. And it's a long weekend. So I definitely want to find out what everybody's been up to on the long weekend. I want to start off with Lolita. How are you, first of all, first and foremost?
I'm very well, doing very well.
That's
How's
good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good,
I'm doing
good.
good. It's been a good long weekend.
Excellent.
I mean, I've been quite busy, doing a little final preparations for our marathon. So just getting in those final runs. What about yourself? What have you been up to on the weekend?
So the weekend for me was all about celebrating my sister's birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Nice,
yes.
nice.
So and also preparing for Thanksgiving, which is upcoming.
Happy belated to your sister.
Exactly. Yes. Happy
Okay.
belated to her for sure. For
Yes.
sure. Yeah. So we went out, had a good time. Me and my sisters, my nieces went out and had a good time. So yeah.
All right. Okay. That's cool. How about yourself, TJ? How you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm
good?
chilling.
That's
I'm
good,
right.
man.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
good,
good. But what did I do? On Friday, I didn't really do much. Saturday, I went to a 1-year-old kid's birthday party.
Okay.
One of my cousin's best friends.
Okay,
And,
nice.
But it was like all the adults, we were getting drunk and
Yeah, yeah.
Those are usually the best parties.
Those are
bro.
good
Good
parties.
party.
Yeah, kid
Yeah,
parties
I
are the
had a
best.
great
It's
time.
funny 'cause the kids have no idea
Kids
what's
have no
going
idea
on.
what's going on. Everyone's getting lit.
I'm sure the kid's not even going to remember that.
Oh, yeah,
birthday
for
party.
sure, right?
I've been to
I
a baby
remember
shower
this.
like
Come
this
on.
recently, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, people are
Getting
getting
lit.
lit. Hard liquor.
It was an open bar.
Open bar. It's like, what kind of baby shower is this?
It's really for
And
the
I
parents,
hope they
honestly.
keep having kids
100%.
because
No,
it was lit.
100%. Yeah,
That's
no,
it,
100%.
that's
How
it.
about yourself, Fuzzy?
Me, just right now, taking it easy because we got the marathon coming up. That's next week. So I think for me, I've just been taking it easy this weekend, relaxing, hitting the gym, the usual, but just taking it easy on my body, really. Just relaxing, taking it slow, man. I'm prepared for this run. So
No,
I'm taking it
100%.
slow.
100%. I think the thing about when you do hard things, it just kind of takes your mind to another level. Like you've kind of opened up a new level to your mind. Because for me personally, when I look at these things and these hard achievements, I look at it as a game and you're leveling up. So every time you do a lot of hard things, it's just there's a new level. And then once you unlock that new level, new opportunities are presented to you. Because I think when we're young and we go to school, we start off with a free mind where, anything's possible as a kid. Like anything's possible. You can do whatever you want. Your parents are always instilling that to you. You could be whatever you want. If you work hard at it, you're going to be whatever you want. But somewhere down the line, as we get older, society starts to break you down and beat you up. You
Put
get
limits on you.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
so
limitations.
yeah, you get
Reality kicks
limitations,
in.
right?
Yep.
So it's like you're getting punched in the gut, you're getting blows to the face, and you slowly. So some people continue to dream and they still continue to hold things dear to them and say, I'm going to do this, and they're going to continue to fight through it, even though, they're getting pummeled in the
Hit in
game
the
of
back
life.
of the head.
Yeah, getting hit in the back of the head, but they continue to grow. And I think as an adult, especially after you go through all of those trial and errors, we're beaten up so much sometimes that we kind of give up on life and we kind of give up on certain dreams we had as a kid. So I think you got to do hard things to remind yourself that you can still dream and you can still do big things. So I think it's always a reminder. It tells you what you're capable of if you put your mind to the task at hand. And then you can also now remember all those times when you manifested something and made it happen.
I love that. Was it the decision behind doing the marathon?
Yes,
Just to like
yeah.
challenge yourself in your
Yes.
adult life, picking something that's really difficult
Yes,
that you
yes.
kind of have to strive to achieve,
Yeah.
to kind of prove to yourself that you can achieve it.
No,
Essentially,
100%,
right?
yes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
What about
yes.
you? Was that like you're in the marathon too? What was your decision behind that?
Well, for myself for the marathon, I just believe that I'm still young. I still have a lot of energy. I have a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish before it's too late. And sometimes when I'm running, the biggest motivation I have, or even when I'm working out, whatever it is I do that's active, is that wow, I'm lucky to be like this fit, this in shape, this active, to even challenge, to make myself take these type of challenges, because I don't like to take it for granted. Like at the end of the day, I have good health, right? So that's something I'm blessed with, but not everyone's blessed with that type of health. So I do understand, and I don't put pressure on those that maybe are incapable of doing these type of things, because it's not for everybody. And I always say, like, doing these feats, it's hell for me. I know for my brother too.
Yeah.
It's probably hell for him. And we struggle to, even get to that mental space to, accomplish certain things. Just because we're in shape, just because we're young, just because we look like we get after, it doesn't mean we don't have our own mental battle. So I think the biggest thing is just, saying that, where you're at is not where you need to remain. So we always try and push it to the next level, because we still feel the same pressure, anything we do, that's a challenge. So we always like to feel that renewed pressure on us to say that, look, there's a lot more out there that people are doing that you've yet haven't conquered. So I think that's my biggest motivation in doing these type of things.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Lolita, like, what would you say you're kind of striving for, and adding on to like your manifestation and what you can accomplish and stuff of that sort?
You know what? For me right now, I'm in a space of figuring two things out. Figuring out like what I want to do creatively.
Okay.
So that's like doing things like podcasting, going back to doing the show that I do, Singles of Toronto. And then also professionally, like where do I fit in professionally? Thinking of like elevating myself in that way. So one thing that I've been thinking about and that I'm actually on the path of is taking my real estate license.
Okay.
So I'm kind of going back and forth between that and now looking at taking a mortgage agent license. So again, kind of in the space of what am I doing creatively as well as what I'm doing professionally, and maybe how if I can kind of marry the two. And I think that would be like a perfect world, right? Yeah, that'd be a perfect world.
What about yourself, TJ?
Honestly, hearing you guys speak about the run just makes me feel like I need to add more discipline to my lifestyle, because I feel like a lot of things come easy for me, so I don't have the discipline that I feel to achieve things that I want to achieve. Because sometimes it's like, okay, like even just your whole thing about the video game analogy.
Yeah,
I met a guy in Turkey and
Yeah.
he said exactly something similar to me. He's
Oh,
like
really?
every time he does something new in his life, he's like creating a new character.
yeah,
Every time he creates a new character, he achieves a different level.
Yeah.
Like maybe this character couldn't get that far
Yeah.
because he wasn't disciplined. But now this character that I have now that work out every day, that wakes up every morning at 6 a.m. can now get this far in the game because he's now a whole new character, you know?
I
And
really
feel
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where I am heading, where it's like I need to put into practice more discipline in things that I want to do. You know, I feel like sometimes like I got this far without even trying. Like I imagine if I now try and I try to achieve things or try to make things difficult and try to see how far that could get me. You understand?
Yeah. So for sure. So just even pushing yourself. So knowing that when you start pushing yourself, you'll get even further. Because if you're not even trying, imagine when you're pushing yourself, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes we don't hit our full potentials. You know, it just takes some time for us to get there.
Yeah, even with me and my brother, the big thing we always like try to preach is like you have to recreate yourself.
Yeah.
You can't rely on things you did yesterday.
Yeah.
You can't rely on things you did yesterday. And a lot of people like to look back in the past and say, oh, I used to be this and I used to be that and I could do that and this is who I used to. And at the end of the day, we're living in present time.
Yeah. Right.
So every day is a new day. Like we did last year we did a marathon around this time. I don't even mention that no more.
We can't live on the past
We can't live
victories.
on past glories. And I think that's just looking at, and when you look at just people in life, especially the only people that we kind of can see their life being documented is like celebrities.
Yeah.
So we see some people that are going upwards trajectories where they're getting bigger gigs, bigger stuff. And then we see people it's like, what happened to them? And they're declining, right?
And that's how you get stuck in the past when you just keep living on past achievement.
Yeah,
that's when you just
And even the most
plateau.
talented of them, you're like, how did that person fall off? He was the most talented out of all of these people. Why did they fall off? And it's like, well, again, they didn't want to recreate themselves because they felt like I was a big star. I had that big hit one time.
Exactly.
And I
don't
should
need to
be
learn
that big
anything
hit
new.
maker going forward. But it's like, no, other people are making hits. You're not the only guy out there. So I think you always have to recreate yourself, and that you owe that to yourself to make a new person each day. And that goes for, past mistakes too, right? If you made past mistakes, things that you are regrettable today, you have to, recreate yourself so people can trust you, people can believe in you, people can, have faith in you that you're going to do the right thing, because it goes both ways. It doesn't always necessarily have to be positive things. It can be you try and recreate yourself from negative things as well. So you always have to just think you can be a better you tomorrow. So give yourself some challenges. And sometimes that could be quitting something, and sometimes that can be adding something.
Exactly.
It just depends where you're at with life. What do you want to do? Do you want to take things away from your life to make it better? Or do you want to add things to make it better?
100%.
So I think that's a big thing. You have to decide that. And every day you got to kind of have that mentality of that. I'm not willing to change who I am today. You can't hold on to yourself too tightly.
Yes, exactly.
That's how you plateau and you become like, that's
get
how
stuck.
people hit
You get
their
stuck.
peak.
They
And they're
peak.
like, oh, this is my peak. This is the best it ever
Exactly,
be, because
right?
you're not challenging yourself to
And
reach other
age is
peaks.
usually the determining factor for this.
Yeah.
Where we'll put the age and then we'll be like, oh, because I'm this age, there's no shot.
There's no
I can-
shot for me to do this now.
And you can't put
You can't put
limitations. You
limitations.
can't put limitations in life. What I've realized, I've seen a lot of people, older ages, younger ages, accomplish big things. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It really
Exactly.
just up to the person.
It all starts with your own
Yeah.
perspective of how you're thinking about
Yes,
life, you know what I mean?
for sure. And speaking on like recreating yourself, I feel like in the dating market, there's a lot of people that have to recreate themselves every time they go on to another date. And one thing I've been realizing, well, what I've been seeing currently is there's a lot of dating shows that are coming out. I don't know
that is true.
There's one recent one that has come out. It's called Love Is Blind. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
You heard of that one?
Yeah. That one's,
I
I'm gonna get some new
I've
new that one.
No, the woman
a
loves
bit of
it.
it.
Yeah.
I watched a bit of it. I watched a bit of it, just to kind of get an idea of like what's this about, right? And one thing I've noticed is it's an older demographic now. So when I used to watch it on MTV and they had like Love Island and all these different types of shows, the people were typically around 24, 25, 26-ish. It was around that range. But now I'm looking at it, it's like 32, 31, 34, 36. And I'm just like, wait, what's going on? And then there was another thing that I thought was kind of strange, because now they're saying Love Is Blind, but the concept itself wasn't making sense to me, because even by the end of it all, they have to see each other. So let's say they're even into each other. If they're not physically attracted to the person, then it's over.
Love is not blind.
So Love Is Not Blind.
What a waste of a
What
show.
a waste of a show. So this whole time we're thinking about Love Is Blind when we find out Love Is Not Blind.
But I think it goes
but
back to the
sometimes-
original concept, just of like, can you fall in love with someone like without seeing them? Like without
That's the point
unseen.
of
I think
the
that's
show.
the
Yeah,
whole
that's the
like
whole point
that's
of
the
the
whole
show.
concept. So I'm asking you guys, do you think you can fall in love with someone without seeing them? Just by having conversations,
No.
maybe
No.
No?
I'm
Like,
not-
so
I'm not even
attraction
gonna
is a really
pretend.
big part of
No,
if
no.
you're thinking
Well,
about lifetime,
let's answer it. Let's answer it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
TJ,
Yeah,
answer
TJ,
that,
answer
and then
first.
we'll
Yeah.
give our
I
answer.
think for like I think love to me is a perception. You know, if infatuation is a perception, love to me too is a perception. So I could definitely be like, okay, I could be talking to you and see like, we can have so much in common, we can have great conversations, and then once I see you, that whole perception of what I thought.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's out the window.
But if-
Well,
Watch
it's
the
easy.
cookie crumble.
But if you actually look like what I expected you to look like,
can win.
that perception now increases, and I'm like, oh, like
yeah.
this is how I picture you to be in my
Yes,
head.
yes.
This
You're
is
starting
the way-
to build
yeah,
something.
thank
Okay.
God. And
Yeah.
now, but in reality, to really answer the question, that means love is not blind.
Not blind.
You know what I mean? That means when I see you,
Yes.
it's just reconfirming things that I've already thought about you. To
Yes.
me. And now if it works out, then
Exactly.
You know
What's
what I
your
mean?
thoughts
Well,
on that?
I'll put it this way. The whole concept of love is blind. First of all, we're not blind. So I can never go into a situation thinking I couldn't see anything because I can visually see. I'm not visually impaired. I'm not blind, you know what I mean? So that in itself will tell me that I would need to actually see the individual because like there's another show called like 600 Pounds. What's that show called?
My 600-pound life.
There we go. Imagine you're talking to someone who has the greatest personality. Come to find out she's 600 pounds.
Yeah.
Like I can't overlook that.
But you would know. From
Well, how would
talking
I
to
know?
them.
How would you
Oh,
know?
they
Would
work
you know?
out.
Would you
They
know?
say,
Like,
how
I was
would
like,
I
wait, would
know?
you know? But
How would I know?
If you know they don't work out, they're like, yo, favorite thing to do is just be on the TV. Like you can now picture the type of person
but
you think.
Okay,
sometimes
that's
they're
not
asking
fair.
the
Like, because there's some
questions.
people who don't work out at all, who like they're not big, but they just don't like to work out. They just like to be a couch potato.
Yeah, they like
right.
to-
So I don't
yeah.
think you would be
Yeah,
able to
but
tell
you'll
if
tell
someone
if
was
you
big
start
naming
by
them.
just talking to them.
If you start
because
naming
it
all
even
your
happened
favorite
in the pods in the
restaurants
show, right?
and you
Yeah,
start
exactly.
McDonald's and
Confused.
Burger King comes up a lot of times, then I can now put
But
it
I don't
together.
think they're gonna be talking about those stuff. You have to understand people that do these shows or like that are doing these blind dates and whatnot. Once they do it enough times, they get good at it. So then they start placating to what you're saying. Now it's like tic-tac-toe. It's like, oh, he said this? Okay, I'm gonna hit him with this. It becomes a
chess game.
counterattack, a
Yeah,
chess
chess
game, right?
game.
They're just countering what you're saying.
He's
What
right
about
about
you-
this.
What about yourself?
I think he's right about this, where it becomes like that chess game, and well, at least for that show,
Yeah,
it becomes a
for
chess
that show,
game of
yeah.
people trying to decide.
Yeah.
Like let me see if I can fish if the person
Yes.
is big, or
Yeah.
let me see if I can
Yeah.
hide, and
Yeah.
maybe she doesn't ask this or he doesn't ask that. But as love blind, for me, once the physical is always going to be the main thing. That's just what it's going to be. I think the physical, speaking for men, I think physically, physical attraction, sexual attraction, that's a big thing for men, because I think that's obviously what's been shown in society, whether it's media, whatever it is, and guys are consciously aware of this, right? So a lot of the times, if the woman doesn't look according to a certain societal norm, especially if we're talking about like certain weight, certain stuff, right, that physically would make them, again, in that societal norm, if they're outside of that, most people are going to say to themselves, this is not a match, right? Because they already have an ideal in their head. So if you're not close to that ideal, there's no way it could work, regardless if they had a good personality or anything of that nature. I think concessions are made when, attraction is in the top of your categories. But I think for a lot of men, especially like on a show like that, physical attraction would be a big thing. But just generally speaking, I think most people wouldn't agree to be with someone just solely based on personality. I think attraction goes hand in hand with, having a good personality. I think you can't have one without the other. Just like you wouldn't deal with an attractive person if she had a shitty personality. You'd figure that out too.
But
She's hot, but I couldn't really take her home.
Isn't
with me.
attraction a spectrum though? Because like you can't,
It's
you know what I
subjective
mean?
for sure.
It's very subjective, and there's a big spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm talking about majority of people. There's
Yeah.
always going to be people outside of that majority, and then some people are gonna say, love isn't skin deep. Like they can get over the looks, they can get over the looks if the back end, which is the personality, the heart of the person, the caringness of the person, if that surpasses it, they might over.
Do you think it's like that for women though? Because I feel like
That's a good question. We got ask Lolita,
I
'cause
don't
she's here,
think so.
right?
Yeah,
I
what's
don't
your
think so.
thoughts?
Yeah.
Actually,
thoughts?
I was just thinking on this, and you know what? As you started to talk and you said, for men, I think attraction is a huge part of like when you're thinking about, spending your time with someone, spending your life with someone. But I would definitely say that for women, it's just the same. Like,
Yeah.
for me personally, I could not fall in love with someone if I did not see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Attraction
exactly.
is a really
Yeah.
big part of it. And I
Yeah.
think when you talked about it being subjective, I think that's the part that it just like, it on the women's side, it differs, because for men, I think men kind of fall within they have to look within a certain societal norm, like you said. But for women, like that scale kind of is a little bit larger.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so the scale is just larger for women.
Exactly.
But it's still
but
there.
definitely, like I have to be attracted to the person physically for anything to
and don't get me wrong, even with, you know, like say somebody like being with somebody that they're not attracted to or something of that nature, trying to make it work out. I think a lot of people, the big issue they have is what others will think of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, unfortunately we're put in boxes. Like, again, if you're a gorgeous woman and then you see a guy that looks like he's a couch potato come out and it's like, yeah, but he had a good personality, you guys match. And it's like, yeah, but I can't bring him around my people. Like that's
the
not
thing,
what
right?
I
That's a
expect
good-
of me.
good point.
And
We're
not to say,
superficial.
we're superficial
We are
generally
superficial
in
in
society.
Western
Not to
society, at
say
least.
that you need to necessarily go off maybe your family's opinion or anything like that, because a lot of times your family might disapprove, but it depends how much you value that, or your friend group and stuff like that. If I'm a very muscular guy and I'm with a big girl and she comes, you know, and I'm saying her personality is going to trump her looks, I have to deal with what comes with that, whether that's strange looks or whatever the case may be. I have to deal with that. So I think it's unfair to even be in those type of scenarios without having the attraction to match it, because again, it's like having like a half baked pie. Like, you know, it's cold on one side, it's hot on the other side. It's like,
But
I can't really,
nobody
I'm not
wants
gonna
the half
enjoy
the
it.
the question I
either
want
way.
to ask
For
is
sure.
like, all right, so like, for instance, how, like growing up, you know, like we all listen to hip hop, and I know Diddy is in a bad position,
No,
but
good.
Biggie used to get all the girls, you know, physically, like to society norm, he's not attractive, but a woman could still find him attractive.
Well, they find his money attractive.
yeah, let's be real.
Is it just
Let's be for real.
let's
do you
be
think
all
His
the way
social
for real.
status, his financial status,
social
Let's
status.
be all
let's
the way
be
for
for
real.
real.
'Cause if he was a regular
that
guy,
works too.
Well,
So-
I'll say this: a person that has money is like a beautiful woman. So a guy that has money is a beautiful woman. So
it's like the equivalent.
yeah,
They
it's
get like
equivalent.
privileges.
They get the same
Like,
privileges.
They don't follow the same societal
yes.
norm rules.
So
yeah.
would that
Yes.
be so you're saying that if a guy is a millionaire and he's not attractive, you can still find him attractive as a woman?
Of course, of course.
Let us
Listen,
see.
I think that the money, he's getting some different moisturizers at that point. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just like, you know.
skin is better.
Yeah, it just shines a little bit better. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, money, he can start putting some.
I don't think that's the same. I don't think that's the same
Yeah.
for men though.
No.
I think men is like, yo, at the end of the day, if you see a woman that's a millionaire, would you still see her as attractive? Even though, like, is she's
That's reverse. Good
not
point.
just not just based on money. Like obviously attraction based on like how they look,
Physical
right? So the
appearance,
physical
yeah.
appearance. Even a woman, I don't think a woman finds Biggie attractive. You have to understand, because I think I've talked to women about this. Like, you know, what's the difference between like a muscular guy and a big guy? Like, what would be the difference? Like, we're both humans. Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference? Like, it's just aesthetic.
It's aesthetic.
And
thing,
then,
yeah.
you know, this woman told me, she said, well, there's not much of a big difference, like, to women. Like, there's not, it's just going to be preference based, first of all.
Yeah.
And again, the guy just needs to be tolerable for the most part, especially if he has other things that he's maybe successful
Yeah.
and doing good in.
I was going to say also personality.
Yeah, so if he has
Yeah.
personality, charisma, social status, financial status, treats are good, these things will trump the looks, because
yeah.
she can now maybe gauge looks as maybe that's not that important because this guy has better quality.
Well, that's more superficial. That's
Yeah,
what we're looking at it, right?
and that's the thing.
which
so
part is more superficial?
the looks part of it. So
Okay.
people that are liking people like say Biggie, and you're talking about celebrity. So remember, what one person, what many like, many more tend to like. So if a couple girls like Biggie and people can see that, then other girls are gonna like Biggie, not because he's attractive. It's just because
Yeah.
it's a
Halo effect.
But is
halo
it,
effect. Exactly.
isn't it still attraction though?
No, it's a
I
halo
think
effect
it's not
because
physically
I think
attraction.
So you're saying Faith Evans was not attracted to Biggie at all?
That's what
you
I'm
don't think?
I-
I think maybe he had a good personality, because honestly, we're talking about that part of it. And I think if you have a great personality, that goes a long way as well as maybe the way you treat women too, right? Maybe, you know, because you're bigger, you don't
But
have
how would
these
they know
things.
how he
you work
treats
extra
women?
hard to, like, you know, be chivalrous to
but
women.
how would you know that?
Right?
How would you know that?
I don't know. I don't know in their
value.
situation.
No,
I'm just
I-
even thinking in my, like, just in my own.
I don't
like,
think
you know what I
you
mean?
need to
Personally.
necessarily treat the person better for that union to happen. I think sometimes people getting into a relationship with someone or thinking they're whatever they are, like say, like you said, with the Biggie, like girls going after
Yeah.
him, that can be there could be many reasons for why they're doing that, and attraction won't be one of them. No one's gonna come to you and be like, he's so sexy. They might say it, but they know if they match them up with guys that are actually sexy, he's okay. So he might be attractive by himself in his own realm, but now when we start comparing, we have to be realistic, and no one's gonna be like, oh, this guy looks better than that, because again, if we just do a blind test with no accolades, no anything, they know who's more attractive. So the attraction doesn't change. It's just they're going to tolerate that. They're willing to tolerate or have lesser an attraction level in order to make maybe things work.
But it's an attraction that just gets you there. Because like a woman could find you attractive, and then you could have someone that you could be physically attractive or whatever the case may be. And then you could have someone like Biggie who's not physically attractive, but he's attractive everywhere else. He has a good personality. He has the money to match. He treats her well. He has good banter. He has good conversation. Now it trumps the person that's just good looking. You understand what I'm saying?
So in some cases, but I do believe that, attraction's attraction. A person, just because they get with you, doesn't mean they don't think other people are more attractive than you. So at the end of the day, if
I think you just need to make a choice.
I don't think a person will say, oh, my man is more attractive than this guy here. Like, they won't say that honestly.
They won't say that physically speaking. But
that's what I'm trying to say. But you can say the other stuff, but that's not attraction in that sense, right? That's more like what you could do for me or how you make me feel. Because if someone makes you feel good and does everything for you, that might be more attractive than someone that just looks good. Because with somebody looking good comes with issues as well, right? Like some women don't want to get with good-looking guys.
I heard that
Why?
too before.
Because they want a guy more grungy. They don't want all the women on him.
Yeah,
so
that too.
sometimes they will sacrifice the looks for their own mental, stability.
But when did that
Not the mental stability.
when that be a level of insecurity?
Oh my God, that's
be a level of
crazy.
insecurity.
What's your thoughts on women the women that say they would prefer dating a man that's less polished, a little more grungy, not so pretty boy?
Why would they want that?
Why do you think that's usually a thing?
Okay, I'm thinking of it in two different ways. Either one thing is that some women prefer men who are, what am I trying to say? A little bit more rough around the edges, right? So they're not gonna go get a manicure and a pedicure, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? And then I think on the other side of that, like you had mentioned, some women just don't want the headache of having to fight off other women. Yeah, fight off other women, right? Like we know attractive men come with all that. We know that. So, I'm thinking of it in two of those ways.
Yeah, and honestly. I feel like they mostly probably think that, someone that's grungy or whatever the case may be would treat them better. Like they
sometimes
don't
it could be the case.
That could be the case.
Yeah.
But I think women are figuring out that, like, even the ugly men are still doing them wrong.
But I actually want to I want to ask this question. Do you believe in the saying "nice guys finish last"?
You know what? I think this is interesting, and for me personally, I always say I don't like this narrative that women like guys who are jerks, who are assholes.
That's what I'm asking,
right?
Yeah.
But I will say that I don't think anybody wants a pushover. So I think there's just a thin line, right? I think that a woman wants a man who's going to stand on business.
Well, say women because men love a pushover.
Okay, for sure. Really, actually, now I was thinking about this. So really, if a woman was a complete pushover, like she did everything and anything, okay, you know what?
Keep going.
Let me pull it back. So I guess I can speak for women.
Exactly.
Let me speak on it for the women, okay? Because like I said, I think that no woman wants a man who is going to be a pushover.
Yeah.
Because if he's going to be a pushover with you, then chances are he's like that in his life, in like every other aspect of his life. Okay. So you know what I mean? And no, that's not attractive. Okay. But I will say there's a thin line, right? There's a thin line because like I said, I do not personally I don't like that narrative that men think that women like men who are rude or mean, or like you have to add a little bit of sauce to like be able to get the girl. I prefer polite, nice, well-mannered men. So
I think, but it's kind of like, it's a catch-22 because I feel like if you're a nice guy, that comes with the territory where you're going to be polite, you're going to be kind, you're going to be thoughtful. And then when you're more grungy, it comes with a different set of characters, like different set of characteristics. So it's like, they might be a little more rude, a little more grungy, a little more aggressive, but that comes with the characteristic traits.
I think that's the thing. That's what they're attracted to. It's not to say that, they want a guy to disrespect them. That's very much different. I don't think any woman that's sane wants a guy to come into the door. Usually, like I said, sane.
There you go. Okay.
That wants a guy to come in the door, kick in the door, and, start yelling
Where's
at
my
her,
dinner?
Where's my dinner? Grab her by the back of her hair. I don't think that's what, women are going after. I don't think that's ever what they've been going after. Mm-hmm. But I think women are attracted to the more grungier look just because of what it represents. And a lot of the times it represents leadership, because to be, rebellious sometimes shows signs of leadership. Sometimes it shows signs of, even you being grungy kind of shows like, I don't really care to impress you. I do what I do as a man instead of, a guy that maybe is doing his, manicure, pedicure, hair always cut, everything fresh. A woman's kind of thinking
grungy. I'm like, wait, what is
grungy? I mean, like not as kept, right? Like maybe more.
So it's got like a
beard,
maybe a big beard,
maybe longer hair, not as polished, not as poloed out, not as dress pantsy, more jeans and sneakers, like type of thing, right?
Flannel top.
Because a lot of women, they don't have problems with guys being this way. They don't want the disrespect with it, but they do like men to be a lot more casual than maybe they are, right? So they don't want a guy to necessarily be looking in the mirror as long as they are, or trying to get ready as long as they are, and trying to be, the best looking they want to be. I think a lot of women don't find that so attractive. I think they like men to be men and stay in that masculine area.
For sure, but I definitely, I think there's also, because one thing about, oh my gosh, just thinking about it, just like, having a haircut, like that's important. I think that if you have a nice, a shape up, a haircut, I think it's important just to polish yourself, to present yourself well, right? So just because
But there's people that cut their hair every 2 weeks. There's people that cut their hair every week.
Which guy would you like?
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
There's levels to grooming.
Okay,
Yeah.
So then, no, honestly, I want the guy who cuts his hair every 2 weeks. Sorry, yes.
You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying.
It's
so
important.
women, like I said, they don't want the disrespect, but I think they tend to lean over. They tend to lean towards men that are more, like I said, casual. Don't really think about those things. Have bigger things on their mind. They don't want a guy, like I said, wasting all that mental energy to think about how he looks before he goes outside. They're thinking, are you getting anything else done outside? Like, are you just worried about yourself and how you look? I know that would annoy a lot of women for sure.
True, okay.
When you guys, just to go back to what Sonny was saying, when you're saying nice guy, right? Do you just mean, you could be polite and not be a nice guy? You could still be nice. I mean, like in terms of like the attitude of nice, but you could still just be, you could be a person where like, I don't yell at you, I treat you well, but I just go outside and cheat every once in a while.
Nice guy and good guy are different.
Good. So are we talking about nice guys finishing last or good guys?
We said good guys.
Oh, good guys.
And you're talking about the guy who is faithful. That's when we're talking about. When we say good guy, we're talking about faithful guy.
We're talking about like good guys. Yeah, guys that are faithful, guys that are polite, guys that are chivalrous, guys that do whatever you need them to do in order to make things work. Like those type of guys that, tend not to be argumentative, tend not to be controlling, tend not to be any of those traits. Just usually, just good guys. But sometimes that is not what is, well, at least a lot of men, they've found out the hard way with being a good guy. That's not what
women are really looking for.
Women aren't necessarily looking for that. Maybe depending on the age of the woman. A lot of women when they're younger, more experimentational. Rather, excitement than stability. So sometimes that is in the equation as well. Compared to when you get older, maybe the good guy is more appealing because, like, you know what? He's a good guy. He does things the right way. Do I really want to roll the dice with the guy that's like a little bit still into the clubbing? And
just unstable, not
really. A little bit more unstable.
Right.
So I think that's what happens with the good guy thing, where younger men feel that the good guy doesn't get them nowhere. Being the good guy doesn't really take them too far.
That's a poisonous narrative that's unfortunate, but it's true. I think that the young guys, especially coming up now, like we were talking about chivalry, like they don't have no idea about taking women on dates, like getting flowers, you know what I mean, like all those things, like that's not even existent in the younger generation, and that's really unfortunate. Because,
why do you think that is?
thinking on that, that's a good
mainly
question.
Even like chivalry. Like let's talk about
that.
Being chivalrous, and why do you think men wouldn't respect the woman that they find attractive, the woman that they want to spend time with? Why wouldn't they feel warranted to behave chivalrous with that woman if they go out on a date? I say majority of men.
I just think that whole like chivalry, that whole thing, it just went away. It just went away randomly.
But why?
Why do you think that?
Honestly, I honestly don't want to say this, but like I just think that men became lazy.
But why did they become lazy? What has happened on the woman's side that has caused men to be lazy and say, I don't want to do this anymore?
You know, I really thought about it, and I really was like, I don't know. I can't see that it's something that the women are doing or did that would make a man want to stop being chivalrous. Like, what's wrong? Why do you want to stop opening the door? Like, I don't see. I think somewhere down the line, somebody made that not cool. I think that's what happened. It made it not cool to be chivalrous to your girl, to be a loving person, to like actually care about your girl and actually like your girl. It became cool to kind of just treat her like a whatever, right? That's when all this side chick, all this other stuff kind of came into the mix. And I think that is what's kind of leading to chivalry not being a thing anymore.
But you're mentioning like the men got lazy. Do you think this has anything to do with the women side of things when it comes to being chivalrous and why men stopped?
No, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I just really, because I'm curious to know, because I'm curious to hear how what a woman, like what part a woman had to play in killing chivalry.
I could give her a prime
example. Give her example.
I was listening to a podcast and a woman was mentioning how she hates when men tell her to smile. That is harassment.
Goodness,
this is a common phrase. So, because you said it had nothing to do with the women, but this girl said a man saying, "Why don't you smile? Hey, how come you're not smiling?" That's harassment. You don't need to ask me why I'm not smiling. First of all, if I feel like having a resting bitch face, it should be fine. Like I don't need somebody to question me on why I'm not smiling. I don't even know you. What kind of attitude is that? So
this attitude, this one girl with this attitude has destroyed chivalry for the rest of humanity.
He gave a bad example.
Because I'm like, I'm only teasing. I'm only teasing, honestly, because, and I think that's also, you have to keep that in mind, is like, thinking about this, trying to bring examples from like podcasts and like social media stuff. I think people say stuff just for like
for
shits and giggles, just for, you know what I mean, to go viral.
What I was trying to say about that point was that I believe that even in this society right now, that it's very sensitive in the sense that anything a man tries and does, like even when it comes down to picking up a woman, it can be problematic because they can't see it as harassment. This guy's a creep. He's something.
I think you're bringing a good point. I think you're bringing a good point.
We don't even need to get that deep with his point, because even when it comes to chivalry, right, and why men wouldn't do it, you have to understand in this society what runs the day. Like you have to think a lot of women, especially this day and age, they want equality. This is what we're escaping. Everyone missed it. Everybody missed it. Not one person mentioned it.
You're right.
It's the fact that women want to be treated fairly and equally. Yeah. This is what the rhetoric is. Women want to be treated fairly and equally. Would you say that's not something women want?
I don't think, I mean, when we're talking about chivalry and we're talking about women wanting to be treated equally, I don't think that's what we're talking about. I don't think when we're talking, like, women want to be treated equally, like, we want you to be equally chivalry. I don't understand that. But like, you know what I mean? Like, those are two different things. We want to be treated equally in terms of making the same money and all, have the same rights. And you know what I mean? We don't necessarily want to have to open the door for you or buy you flowers on the date.
That's
you know what I mean?
With what you said. But a lot of the times, this 50-50 relationship, when did that come up to be? When did 50-50 become a thing?
When we realized that men were too lazy to buy the flowers and to pay for the 100% of the day.
That's not how it came about. Of course, I know you're joking, but that's not how it came about. The 50-50 thing came about because women felt like either I'm capable to split the bill, or the man is like, well, if you say you want to work as much as me, then let's go 50-50 on the bills. But the women agreed to this as well. So when it comes to relationship dynamics, if if you're in society, if that's how you want to be, if things are to be equal within our society, with dating also there's going to be equality there too. So being chivalrous, why is that a duty of the man? Because again, when it comes to breadwinning and leading the relationship, women seem to have a problem with that. So when the guy wants to lead with his chivalry, the women are having a problem with that. That's why men are going to be, okay,
I think there's a
don't
narrative
need to
that's
hold
going
the door
on.
because you don't care if I hold the door. You don't hold me accountable if I hold the door for you. Exactly the mentality of the women. They do not care for chivalrous men. So then men stop doing it because they're like, this doesn't give me more credit.
I don't think that's true. I think that definitely, I can tell you, any woman would love to have the door open for her. I'm telling you, any woman would love to have roses presented to her before you take her out on a date. I think any woman would like to go back to being courted in the traditional ways that we were courted.
But obviously, women before have ruined that.
You know what?
Right
I think that being chivalrous comes with vulnerability for men. So sometimes, for instance, for me, for like he said, I don't necessarily would be like, okay, let me open the door for you, because I could open that door for you and we could sit down and you could be like, I don't feel this guy. I could buy you roses.
That's true.
And I could take you places and you could be like, you know what? He was so nice, but I just don't feel it. It wasn't for me.
I think let's get to that. That's a great point.
Why do I do all of these things? And I'll be like, let me take you out. Let me buy you flowers. Let me open the door. And then Tutu's the dude from down the street that just comes to your house and knock the door.
Nothing.
Didn't do any of those
Didn't
things.
do
the guy you like.
That is not true. I don't know what he's going to talk about. That's not true.
So you think that doesn't happen? You don't think that nice
never
guys
happens.
So I've heard like nice guys or good guys or whatever guys being on a date with the girl, then another guy calls them and it's like, yeah, I'm on a date, but yeah, come get me.
Ladies, no, I've never seen that.
Only for men, this has happened.
No, I have never. Nope.
I've heard stories of this.
Cannot say.
I've seen this because I've heard stories. I'm not going to give any names.
Anecdotal, many.
You know, I have many stories where men were doing the most for a female, but on the side, she's texting the other dude, oh, I have a date at this time. We can meet up prior to that time, do a little 1-2.
Then I'll go
she goes to that date. And that dude doesn't know. He's opening the doors. He's bringing the flowers, giving the teddy bear. What's going on?
I think men are tired of getting played. So at the end of the day, they have a heavy heart now. So they're gonna go into the scenario.
They've been tired. We've been tired. Okay, so that's where it's at. That's why we're at where we're at right now, right? Because even going back, I think that you brought up a really great point about vulnerability, and I think that like let's just speak on it. Women are a lot more like they're vulnerable. Like we just women are vulnerable. Vulnerability comes a lot easier to women. For men, especially black men, that's not something that's really heard of. Right? It's really hard for you to be vulnerable. So like you talked about, it's hard for you to put yourself out there to open the door for a girl and like do all these things because she can turn around and just go off with the next dude. But like on the other side of that, same thing, right? You can go on a date with a girl. She can be there having a great time, all this stuff, and then right after that, you can go and smash some next girl. That's in your roster, right?
But
so it's like,
I'm speaking on the vulnerability part is like I feel like women of today are less vulnerable as well. Like a woman would tell you, "Oh, we could go out to eat, but I won't cook for you." You know what I mean? And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That sounds kind of crazy.
That's
actually a woman rather sleep with you than cook for you.
Cause it's crazy. I've heard that too.
You know that a woman, she knows
she's
drawn
a line.
I'm not saying for yourself,
I'm not saying
but you know women out here rather sleep with somebody than cook a meal.
This is where you draw the line. Is like you can sleep with me, but you can't cook for me. Like this is where this is a line that's been drawn.
Where it goes back to things like so me cooking for you. That's a very much an act of like traditional, like, you know what I mean? I'm gonna cook a meal for you, traditional. That's a traditional thing. So it's like if men are not coming with the traditional stuff, like paying the bills and all those things come off the table. And
But
I think that's what the conversation.
The bill when they take a woman on a date?
Yes, definitely.
So
you must. Not all men. No, because now that's the whole conversation, right? Some men do. Some men are on the 50-50. Some men are on the 50-50 thing. Now the fact that this even is a conversation at this point, it's like, you know what I mean? You want a woman to cook you a meal, but you have a problem with paying all her bills. Like, what do you mean?
No,
but I understand. I'm speaking on chivalrous, right?
Mm-hmm,
if I take you out on a date, I mean, like if I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to buy you flowers. We're going to go to the grocery store. I'm gonna buy the food and then you could cook for me. I'm sure some woman would be like, they'd be like, nah, I'm not cooking.
What kind of assignment are you putting me on? Why can't we do it together? Why can't you say we're gonna cook the food together?
I did
Beautiful. I love it. And I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to. You could be the sous chef. I'll be the chef. Okay.
My God.
Don't worry. You can just chop the vegetables, but we can do it together. Like, why are you putting me? Why are you putting me on assignment? So you're just gonna sit there and play video games? You're gonna sit and play video games while I'm making the food. What's so wrong? What's so wrong with cooking the meal together, though? What's so wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that, but I'm saying, why wouldn't it be okay for you to just reciprocate one thing? He did multiple things.
I was being vulnerable by being chivalrous.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna. I'm gonna. Like I said, I'll be the chef. You be the sous chef.
Cook me a meal.
Yeah, I can do that.
But see, now you just introduced 50-50 though.
Yeah, you did.
You just
but I enjoy this.
50-50.
I enjoy this because you know what? In my mind, I'm like, okay, I can do that because maybe the week before you brought some groceries over, right? So it's like thinking of, you know what I mean? Thinking about it like 50-50 in a way. So it's
That's
like I'm gonna cook
you brought
the food.
The 50-50 into
Last week, couple weeks, you've been bringing groceries. So now I feel like, you know what? He's been not paying all my bills, but guess what? He's been putting something in, so I can, guess what? The least I can do is cook a meal. So you have to you can't just be like, I want to sit here, play my video games while you cook me a meal.
For you to cook a meal for a man is a vulnerable thing for a woman to do.
That's
for
what
you
I'm
to be
saying.
like, if you were to cook for your brother, your sibling, or your cousin, you wouldn't even think about it. It's not a deal. But if you to cook for a guy that you're seeing, it's very vulnerable.
It is.
Than to take a guy on a, you know what I'm saying? So
a lot of effort and love goes into it. Okay.
Exactly. So if it's like the same realization of like, well, why don't we cook together? I could be like, why don't you open your own door?
Yeah, you wouldn't like that.
That's what it is at this point, right? Guys, it's very rare that a guy's actually going to open your door, who's actually going to pull out your chair at a date, who's actually going to bring flowers or a gift for you. That's a very rare case.
Yeah, that's
very
not the norm no more.
Yeah.
So that's not the expectation. You've
because
never expected a guy to do these things for you.
Exactly. Because that's what I'm saying. I didn't grow up with that part of my.
You
know what I mean? Because we grew up in a time
when
when that's not cool. Like you said, being vulnerable, being chivalrous, being
even
good, nice to your girl. That wasn't cool.
You might be like,
right?
yo, this guy might be a serial killer. Like,
oh my God, no, because you brought up a good point, and I think that also added something to chivalry, killing chivalry, like this whole Me Too movement, right?
Right,
like that.
Being a creep.
So people, like being a creep, you just don't know what boundary. You just don't know. The boundaries have changed so much.
People are always accused of doing the most.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be in that position.
I don't want this. And I think why women always would love chivalry, right? Majority
to a certain
of them.
degree,
to a certain degree, they'll like chivalry, like you said, flowers or something like that. But I think, sometimes it's them being skeptics as well, like being skeptical. So why is this guy doing so much?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, is a woman willing to accept a guy doing that much for them? Are they ready for it?
Because now we need to talk about this because this is something that's very real. Very real. What do they call it? What do they call it? Love bombing.
Yes.
You're
she
right.
got it.
You're right.
So
it's a scary thing.
So
it's very scary.
So that's what I said. So women are weary too when a guy's trying to do, I want to buy you this.
You have to be weary because
let me not put myself in a trap because he might just set the trap and then once I walk into it.
Y'all did that. I'm sorry.
Y'all
did that. No, you guys, no.
I know what you mean. But I'm just saying, like,
yes, there is no scenario.
There's individuals that have done that for sure.
So,
but you can't group everybody in that world, right?
What's the line between chivalry and love bombing then? You know what I mean?
That too.
Where's the line?
That too. Because
I think it needs to be genuine. I think that's the line. I think it needs to be genuine because when someone's love bombing, because when someone's love bombing after a certain amount of time, all of that stuff switches. It's done. It's gone. It was not even real to begin with. It was all a facade. But if someone's being actually genuine and trying to do sweet things, it's going to last. It's not just going to be for the first 2 weeks, first month, first 3 months of dating, right? It's going to last throughout the whole time. But you're going to see that in his character throughout the whole time.
If I just met you, right, and we just met, we don't know each other from nowhere, and I start doing all of these, like, chivalrous things, can it be confused as love bombing if I start sending you flowers?
That's why we're saying that's why we're in this position where it's like it's kind of like
where do I draw the line of like, yo, am I doing too much for shorty?
That's a good question.
Am I doing just enough? You know what I mean? Especially when I just met you.
Communicate. Just ask her. Just ask her. Because like you can have these conversations, right? Because like we're both thinking about the same thing. Like, right, she's thinking about it like, oh my gosh, like he could be love bombing. Is he being genuine? Then you could be thinking like, am I doing too much? and you guys have the conversation. You're like,
You know what's
babes,
crazy
no, I
about
actually
having
genuinely
that?
like you. And I just want to do these things for you. And she's like, oh my God, thank you for
But
easing
you
my
know
mind
what-
about
You know what's
that.
so
You know what
crazy
I mean?
about that conversation, especially when you first meet somebody, is am I doing too much? The woman would be like, why don't you just lead? Don't you know what women...
That too,
Like,
right? It's like, why are you asking me? Exactly. Why are you asking me?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Man, oh my gosh.
Like, I know women ask is like, am I doing too much? But for a man to ask a woman, am I doing too much?
Is
Like,
very
you don't know how
That
to
means like
lead?
you don't know.
You don't know what's going on.
You don't know how to lead. That's what it's giving.
100%. That's what it's giving.
Absolutely, and that's
Yeah.
not. That's,
Is
So
this
that doesn't work.
Is this too much? Like the flowers? Is that did
Like,
I go overboard?
why is he asking me?
That's-
You're gonna kind of look at him like a little
I'm
bit
gonna be like,
strange.
okay,
Like,
that's a bit strange.
You're gonna
give me a
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
strange.
do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Don't ask me
Yeah,
about it.
don't
Just
ask
do
me
it.
about
Just
Okay,
do
But
it.
fair
then
enough.
I could do all of these things, and then you can confuse it as love bombing. You could be like, oh, this guy's just doing. He's not gonna open doors for life. You're gonna open the door.
That too.
Until he gets what he
He's
wants.
gonna open the doors. He
And
gets
that's
what he
too. How
wants.
long is he going to be opening doors? Because most likely he's not going to open every single door that he goes on a date with you on.
Listen, if this is in his character, it's in his character.
Oh
I
my
promise
God.
you on that. I
So
promise
do you
you.
think there's guys?
So have
He
you
may
seen-
forget.
have you
a
met
few
a guy
times.
like
Yes,
that?
absolutely. He may forget a few times, but even if you get in the car without him doing, he's gonna be like, "What? You move
Yeah,
too quick."
you're right. That's
I've
his
been in that position for the
characteristics.
whole
Yes,
time
absolutely,
because
yeah. They're
it's
not
in
gonna
his
change
character.
who they
Yeah.
are. Yes, they're gonna be that moving forward. They're
So
not
how
gonna
long
switch
would
up.
you say? Okay, you say so. Love bombing would take. So first 2-3 months, it could be love bombing, but then it could be genuine if it goes further.
I don't want to say put a timeline on it because you
can
can
love
never,
bomb for
like,
years.
you know what I
You can
mean?
do
Yeah,
that
I
for
just
a
think,
couple years,
I
yeah.
just think at some point you start to realize when someone's being genuine
Okay.
and when they're not,
Okay.
right?
I don't think
And it
never
just starts to show
underestimate
within
how
those.
long someone could pretend for.
Yeah,
Because I've heard of
Lifetime,
10
lifetime.
years,
They
like
could be 10 years
the
in.
love
Lifetime,
scams.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard of 10-year love scams. So
Yeah,
you're right about
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about
Underestimate
I
that.
guess
how
the
long
question
someone
for this is, women when they're dating, how much skepticism do you go into dates with?
You know what? I know for me, and I think I had mentioned this before. I think when you're going into dating, you have to have an open mind and an open heart. Because I think if you go in being like, okay, I'm going to meet a murderer, I'm going to do this, and you're going to go in being closed off.
Yeah.
You're not going to really want to talk. You're not going to really want to open yourself up because you're going to have those thoughts in the back of your mind, right? So I think you just need to be open and just be discerning, right? Communicate, have conversations, look at those red flags, and don't ignore them. I think that's key. I think all the time, women especially, we want to be like, okay, you know what? Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe, I don't know, like maybe was that okay? Was that not okay? It's like, no, you know that was a red flag. That's why you're questioning yourself. Just end it there because red flags, they don't turn into green.
So for yourself, like just generally speaking, like how do you? Because my whole thing, I just, like you said, look for red flags, and if you're on dates, like obviously communicate on these type of things. But how much grace do you give, like in that sense? Because sometimes you can go on one date and it doesn't hit off to where it needs to hit off. You kind of still figuring things out, or sometimes it's right when you meet, then you guys connect and stuff like that. So with those quick connections, how do you process that? Because women, I know we're talking about like, yeah, take your time and evaluate, but that's not reality. People go quick.
Yeah,
Meet
right.
someone in 2 hours, guess what? Back at your house. Done.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's the
This is the
reality.
reality
The
we're
reality.
in. So, we talk about, just communicating and all that type of stuff, but sometimes attraction, infatuation, these things trump. And sometimes the experience, right? Like say you're dealing with someone that has a lot of money and he brings you to a crazy experience, and now all of a sudden all your radars are off, right? Because the experience overwhelmed you. You're no longer in a normal thought process to be like, oh, but there's a red flag when he said this. You're just thinking, oh, well, what an extravagant night I had. You're not really thinking of that. So how do you discern those things with like when experience is good and that? Because when things are good, You're not going to look at red flags really that much, right? So how do you discern that quick infatuation or that quick connection?
And
How
some
do you?
people are experts.
Yeah, that's
making-
what I'm saying.
And
Some-
making you
yeah.
feel a
making you
certain
feel
way,
great
like,
in
Yes,
one day,
yes,
in
couple
one
hours.
day,
They
you
know how to
know?
win you
Yeah.
over. You might have met them 1 hour. They have the charm of a lifetime. They got you. They got you. Everything
They
they're
have the
saying
gift
is
for
perfect.
gab.
Gift for gab. Knows how to
Yeah.
talk. Makes you laugh, et cetera, et cetera. How do
Charismatic.
you discern the
The real
maybe-
from the fake.
the real from the fake in those kind of scenarios when you're overwhelmed emotionally?
Well, I think that is the mistake that a lot of us make. We just get caught up in the moment instead of stepping back from the moment and really looking at all the pieces, right? Because like I promise you, whether the person gives you a great experience or not, like there's gonna be some of those red flags, like in your gut feeling, like that you feel that come up. And of course, maybe when you're having that great experience, you're not thinking of it in that moment, right? But generally, like after you come back, you're at home, you're in your apartment, you're like, oh, wait a second, like, you know, this and this and this is really not adding up. And then, of course, because we had that great experience, we're like, oh, whatever, like you know, let me just continue on. Well, no, that's a mistake. Like, let's just be real with ourselves.
But how do you catch yourself? That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you catch yourself?
Listen, if we knew that, I think that there wouldn't be so many baby mama, baby father situations. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think that's the thing. How do we catch ourselves?
How do you catch yourself when you get caught?
I actually have a question, a little off topic, but this question's pertaining to what's your thoughts on men that date younger?
Ooh.
Because I know a lot of women have that issue. Men don't have the same issue. So I want to see what's your thoughts on that and why is it an issue?
Men that date younger.
But let's keep it in a context of certain ages. So say oldest, say 40, we'll stop at 40.
Yeah.
And then we'll go all the way to like 18 or 40 to 18. So all adult in that adult range.
What's the issue there?
What would be the issue of that guy in his 40, in that 40 range, dating anyone in that pool?
That pool.
Especially the younger half of that pool. What would there be a problem? And what is the problem if there would be a problem in that? So if he dates anyone within that, lowest being 18.
Okay, so I think if you're 40 years old and you're dating an 18-year-old, I think for me, I mean, hey, to each his own, do whatever you want in your life. But I think personally, it's like, I'm questioning you because like, what are you going to talk about with an 18-year-old? Like you guys, your life experiences are different. You guys are on two different pages in terms of mindset, in terms of like where you're at, like financially, like there's so many aspects that's like, how are you guys really relating?
So I got a question for you. When you date somebody from a different country, how are you relating to them?
Over, you talking about, I don't know, like maybe you have...
No, they have a whole different experience. They grew up somewhere else around the world.
For sure.
So where is the correlation? How are you guys connected? You guys
can talk about you guys can talk about each other's culture. You guys can talk about things that you've seen, different places you want to travel. You can talk about any number of things. Right? Any number of things.
But there's a number of things you can talk about in that.
But I mean, like...
Same with different age groups.
But if they're within your age group, you're going to be talking about the same kind of things, right?
No, but put it this way. Like say for the guy that's 40 and the woman that's 18... Well, what he has is experience. So the role of them being, you know, counterparts in terms of like, you know, experiences is obviously out of the window, out of the question. They're never going to be relatable in that sense because the age gap is different.
Right.
But what the guy can do, because in that age difference in a relationship, there'd be different roles now, right? So the guy should serve as a mentor of sorts, even if that's his lover. He should serve as a mentor. And we've known women that have dated older men, because a lot of young women date older men, and a lot of them have claimed that the man was sort of like a mentor to them
and they tell them a lot of things.
In a certain aspect where it's like, yeah, he was teaching me about his business. He was teaching me about how to do this, how to start this up, where there's value in that experience that the man has.
Right.
So that's why we asked this question, because of course we hear women like have some issues with guys that are a little bit older going after women that are to be like very young, like a fresh adult, 18, 19, 20, and they feel that they don't have the experience necessary, right? But like I said, the experiences are different. Why is it a negative more so than a positive?
I just don't understand like why of all the people, like why would you go for such a young person? Like why do you need them to be like fresh out of high school?
We never mentioned anything
no,
about
I'm just saying. No, because when you're 18, think about it. When you're 18, you're fresh out of high school.
You know what I think?
Right? We said 18, and that was the number we were going with.
But if we go, say, that's upwards or downwards to 18, but say, so what age would then be your buffer point for a 40-year-old? So
I'm not gonna put it like I said, to each his own. How like whatever age you want to date, that's up to you. But I'm just saying this for this question.
You know what I think,
40 to 18.
I just find it funny when women always go for the lowest age. My brother he said the
lowest
is 18.
And the lowest
he said the lowest.
You know what I think though? I think that women are attracted to older guys. Like, you know, if I were to ask you, like, what's the oldest in age that you ever dated, you know, you will give me a number of what that is. And I think the point I'm trying to make here is that when an older guy as 40 is dating someone that's younger, a lot of her experiences, like if for instance she's straight out of high school, she's used to guys that she's dating not having a car. He has a car.
Yeah.
He has his own place.
Yeah.
He took her out on a trip. So all of her first experiences is with him. You know what I mean? So like some of the things that she remembers, or like the first trip she ever went to, which was probably the best. Your first experience is usually your best experience. So he gets to be all of those first for her.
So maybe that's why he does go younger.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point.
That
As
is a
you
good
said,
point.
to have somebody that, you know, never experienced all the things that he wants to show her.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he doesn't go with the woman that's maybe closer to his age,
Because
she's
they've already
has
experienced
a
all of
slew
those
of experience,
things, yeah.
which is usually the case. And not to say, you know, if you're a woman, don't go enjoy your life, but I think it's just a preference then. I think some men have the preference to deal with somebody that maybe doesn't have that experience, whether it's right or wrong, like morally or legally. Obviously, if it's legal, it's legal. So we can't criticize things. If it's legal, it's legal. That's why I don't criticize it. But again, if you want to say, is this ethically right? Is it, you know, shuddy, and what's the real deal behind it? I think you kind of have to let people be people, because at the end of the day, you know, there's a lot of unlikely relationships that I've worked in this life. And think about it, regular relationship barely works. So who are we to criticize if an older person goes for younger goes for older?
Right.
You can't barely get it right when you're the same age group.
Yeah.
Right.
So we kind of have to
Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
just going back to that question, just in terms
But
of
we are going
if
to
you-
conclude it soon. So yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to
Get your
mention
question
that.
then,
go
yeah.
ahead,
just
get
on
to it.
that, just if thinking about if you had a daughter, like would you be okay with your daughter dating, like she's 18, she just got out of high school, would you be okay with her dating a 40-year-old man?
If I spoke with him, I would probably be like, this is God honest truth. I'll be honest. If my daughter was 18, I'd first of all would already know what my daughter's potential is at that age. I'd know what she's gonna do or where she's kind of, you know, where the
Where she's gonna
trajectory
learn,
is.
yeah. Yeah.
So based on that, if I believe that she's in need of somebody of that age and that's gonna help her life out and it's gonna help things be better, I would talk to the guy because
Yeah.
he'd be an older man. He'd be around my age, and we can have a conversation. And
Man to
depending
man.
on what
Yeah.
he says,
no, that's
but
I like
there would
it.
be- but
I like it.
But you have to understand. But you have to understand. I would set rules for this man because he's a
Mm.
man. I'm gonna set some rules.
And
You're
you
gonna
would have
set
to
rules
marry
for
her
a
for
man.
sure.
Yeah, you'd have to
Okay.
marry her. You'd
Okay.
have to. Ain't no nothing
No,
without
fair enough.
like
No dating,
the commitment.
nothing like that,
And
no.
even with that, she needs to be 100% secure. But she's 100% secure. Deal's
There
done.
you go. Go
There you
ahead.
go.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
Yeah.
The
Brought
Same
up some
thing.
great
Yeah,
points.
same
What about your thoughts?
Yeah.
What's your last thoughts on that?
To be fair, you've already answered it. 'cause
I wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be opposed to the age thing.
No.
The age thing is not a thing for men. I
No.
think for men, we're gonna look at the most practical situation. It's like if it's gonna work, you got to do it the right way. Go through the right channels.
Talk to
you
the
come.
parents,
You talk
do
to
the
the
stuff.
parents. I see how he is. We hang out a couple times. I try and evaluate his personality, his characteristic traits. Can I see that being a good fit? What is he doing? Understanding what he does as a person. Is he taking my daughter seriously? Is he trying to marry her? Or is he just trying to
around.
date her and have a good
Exactly.
time? And if we're on that, buddy, hit the road.
road.
It ain't going to happen over here.
Hit the road,
But if you're
Jack.
serious and you're showing me you're serious, then okay,
We
let's
can do
make it happen.
something.
But I don't have an issue with the age. Just make sure you're coming in
Like I
with
said,
the serious
I would
intentions.
prefer to give my daughter, like, not give her. I'd prefer if my daughter chose a more established man than
Yes.
a less established
Yes.
man, regardless of age.
We're assuming that this 40-year-old man is established, but
Well,
that's
that's
to be
the
established.
case. That's
the case.
You don't want
But
my, I
that's
don't
what
want
I
my
said.
daughter dating a
That's-
bum.
all bets are
sometimes
off. All
these
bets
guys.
are all bets are off.
Let's just leave it there.
Yeah,
Let's
never
just
out
leave
of
it there.
10. No,
We're
be a
assuming
40-year-old
he's
bum.
established.
Yeah, no 40-year-old bums.
Oh, no.
Hell no. That's why I said I have to talk to him, but I have to see
Yeah,
what
I
he's
see
on.
what's
That's the
going
whole
on.
purpose of the man-to-man talk.
Because there'll be no grace for 40-year-old 40-year-old that's not doing
hell
nothing.
no.
Like,
Oh,
there'll be
hell no.
absolutely
Yeah.
no
But
grace.
this is why I said I need to know how serious you are.
Very
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if you're just coming in here, I'm
Have a
just
good
gonna
time.
game the system. No. You're
You're
out.
done.
You're done. You know, we're not doing it. Anything you
Fair
have to
enough.
say?
Yeah, no,
Final
I
words on
agree.
that?
I agree. Like, you can't be a 40-year-old bum.
No,
Like, I
no,
feel like
that's not
even
happening.
if you're 40 and you're talking to my daughter, I feel like, you know, there'll be less wiggle room for
100%.
someone that's younger. Because I
Yeah,
you gotta
yes.
figure it out. But
Yeah.
you're 40 and you say
You
you, don't
have to
you
have
still
it
live
all
at
gone.
home.
You have to have it figured
You don't
out.
have a job. You
Oh,
don't
no,
have
no.
nah.
That's unacceptable.
hell no.
That'll never
Unacceptable,
happen.
you know?
No way.
But my daughter know better, so
100%.
Like,
I'm
you-
talking about well-to-do 40.
Oh, yeah,
You're just
exactly.
40 and like you might as well be
Hell
20
no.
at this point.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that tells me the story. What?
So we got on today's podcast. You
And,
already know it's your boy Fuzzy Vision.
and Sunny Frames.
Got
Lovely Lolita.
There you go.
TJ.
There we go. And this is Far From Normal Podcast. And we are out. Deuces.
Deuces.
Ooh, good work.